What up, Unruffled listeners? It's Fridge, your host for the HenHouse Unruffled Podcast, and today we're going to be listening to some live recordings from the Freshtival 2022. On this podcast, Bob sits down with the incredible Herlinda Heras of the Brew Ha Ha Podcast and radio show on a segment they're calling Liquid History. Now, that being said, the audio quality is probably going to be a little different here because we were at a live event, so there will be some background noise to contend with. I hope you enjoy. Without further ado, let's get it going.
Welcome to HenHouse Unruffled, an audio companion to the beers of HenHouse Brewing Company. Each episode will take a deeper dive into each beer's concept, recipe, can art, sensory, and more with your hen host, Fridge.
What up?
Word up, all of you fabulous Freshtival attendees. This is Bob from the marketing department. Starting off, a little liquid history discussion. We are going to get into the exact opposite of what we're all here for, which is incredibly fresh beer. This is going to literally be incredibly old beer. We're going to get into a little bit of liquid history, and I am here with one of the North Bay's greatest beer historians, beer judges, and radio personalities, Miss Herlinda Heras.
Thank you. You actually say my name right too. Check you out.
I've been listening a lot and practicing. You've got good team members who pronounce that right every time. You are an absolutely amazing beer personality around Sonoma County. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do for this incredible scene that we're a part of.
You're making me blush, and you're making my day at the same time. So I'm Herlinda Heras. I co-host Brew Ha Ha on KSRO, live broadcast every Thursday at 5 here in Santa Rosa, California. Well, we're actually in Rohnert Park right now, but you know what I mean. For when you guys listen to the podcast later. Yeah. And Sonoma County. And then it does go to podcast on iTunes, Reddit, Spotify, SoundCloud, all that later.
Yeah.
And we originally started the show, the beer show, it's a segment on KSRO on the Drive with Steve Jackson.
Right.
Joe Tucker and I originally started it.
Right.
And then when he sold Rate Beer, Mark Carpenter, who was the head brewer for Anchor Brewing, Anchor
Pretty
Steam.
colossal deal.
Yeah, he became my co-host. He was the head brewer for 45 years. Now that guy is a historian.
Yeah.
He knows Colin, and we need to get you guys on him on the show with you as well.
I mean, it is just amazing that something that Colin talks about a lot, and so do I, is we're incredibly lucky because all of these pioneers of all this stuff that literally created our industry, I always say they paved the road we drive down.
Oh, yeah.
And we're so lucky because these aren't men and women who lived 200 years ago. They're still around. Like, Fritz is still walking the earth. Judy Ashworth is still celebrating birthdays. Like, we are lucky that we still get to interact with these people, and my God, what they must have been doing to keep beer cold and fresh and actually get people excited about flavor and excited about local brewing must have been so much harder back then.
California really is the seat of the craft beer movement. So the first new brewery, not even craft brewery in America after Prohibition, was New Albion, and it was in the town of Sonoma, off the square there.
Yeah.
Started by Jack McAuliffe, who was a Navy veteran.
Yeah.
And he'd had some really great beers, and in his travels with the Navy in Germany and in Belgium and other places as well. And he came back and he was like, I think I want to do that. And what did we have a lot of it at the time in Sonoma County for equipment, because you couldn't get brewing equipment. We had dairy.
We had dairy equipment.
So he actually was brewing with dairy equipment.
Yeah.
And he knew how to weld, and he put those together and started that out. But a lot of people don't know also is the women that were involved in beer. And so 2 women helped finance the first new brewery in America after Prohibition.
Yeah.
Yeah, Susie Stern, and I am blanking on the other one right now, of course, because I'm on stage. But 2 women actually did the funding for that. And Susie was Jack's sort of on and off girlfriend. And got that kind of, rolling as well. So my friend Tara Nuren, who wrote A Woman's Places in the Brew House, she actually talks more about that because there's a lot of women who were forgotten in beer. Yeah. And Jack gets all the accolades. I was at the Smithsonian when they started the first, the American History Museum in the Smithsonian. There's an area with Julia Child's kitchen, which is super cool. They have her entire kitchen in there. And next to that now is the first American beer history, like showcase. So there's, stuff from New Albion.
Right.
Anchor Brewing, of course. My friend Mark Carpenter and my co-host.
Yeah.
One of his jumpsuits, the white jumpsuits they wore, is in there. And a grain bill from Ordering Malt is on there as well.
That's
wild.
wild.
But everybody on stage for the opening of the museum were men.
Right.
It was Ken Grossman from Sierra Nevada.
Sure.
Fritz Maytak from Anchor Brewing. Michael Lewis, who taught the beer program at
Dr. Michael Lewis at UC Davis.
Who else am I thinking? Well, Jack McAuliffe. He's been in a nursing home, so he was actually like talking on stage, but his daughter was there, and she's amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
His daughter's really like
Renee
helped like him connect with his fan base and like kind of get him out there.
Well, the funny thing is that Jack didn't even know he had a daughter.
Right.
So she was adopted. Her mom had put her up for adoption. Jack had been in the Navy and had headed off to the Navy.
Right.
And then she went looking for her parents, and she found her mom, and then her mom helped her find her dad.
Right.
And her dad was Jack McAuliffe that started the first new brewery in America. Guess what business Renee was in when she was 35 and found her dad?
I actually don't know this part.
She was in beer marketing.
No way.
She had no idea who her father was and that who he was, in beer.
That's
and
like
here she was in beer marketing.
What a Luke Skywalker kind of moment. That is totally that is totally crazy.
Cheers.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheers. So,
cheers to Jack and Renee.
Yeah, to Jack and Renee and the people who were kicking it off. Also, the folks at Rogue, very pioneering, going all the way back to 1988. And this is coming up on 11 years old. This beer is actually tasting great for how old it is. I can't believe it.
Yeah, 11 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah, only like a little tiny bit of that umami and soy sauce.
Right.
Like if you smell soy sauce and like the beers, like an older, darker beers, that not bad.
So you mentioned Pink Boots Society historian and regular Forbes beer contributor Tara Nurin writing this incredible book, A Woman's Place is in the Brew House, which is so comprehensive, so deeply researched, like so amazing. There were a ton of points where there was a ton of people in that book, a ton of incredible women who I'm like, oh, I can't wait till she gets to this person and this person. Oh man, that one abbess who used to love to give Hildegard, maybe, who used to love to give
Hildegard von Bingen.
Exactly.
Yeah, she was a nun in the 12th century, and she was a brewer, and she also wrote music and all kinds of things as well. So she was brewing. And of course, we also know about like Trappist and abbey beers from monks and things as well. But the nuns actually they kicked some ass on some beer. Nuns were doing it too.
Yeah,
and she was one of them. Yeah.
And so there's so many people like her who I was like waiting for them to pop up in the book, and then so many other women, especially like modern ladies whose stories would kind of be going untold without Tara's work. And it's such a great book. It's so well researched. And you are mentioned in it constantly. And one of the most important women in local beer whose story I don't know is you, Herlinda. You are a literally world-renowned beer judge. You're a podcast host. You're a radio show host. You don't need a computer to hear your show on a real terrestrial radio. What is your autobiography?
Oh, boy.
How did the industry get so lucky to have you?
My friend Wolf Reinhold's over here. He's just laughing his head off. We've drank a few beers together. I have made beer. I've made cider. I've made wine. I've made cheese. But that is not my even close to expertise. I am a beer enjoyer. And I love history.
Right.
And I love talking to people and interviewing people. I've actually been in radio for 20 years. We've been doing the show for almost 9 years for Brew Ha Ha, but I started over at the Crush and met the guys from Lagunitas. And they were still actually, Tony McGee was actually pouring and Ron Lindenbush at the backyard concerts at the Crush back then. Like
that's
we're talking
awesome.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
So 2002 is when I started in radio. And I was going to England. A friend of mine, her father had died, and she asked me if I would come over to England to help her with the funeral arrangements and stuff.
Wow.
She was afraid to fly, and she says, I know you travel a lot, Herlinda. Will you come with me? Absolutely. I asked Ron Lindenbush like, hey, is there somebody in England who can tell me some places to go? Some breweries and tap rooms and stuff.
Yeah.
And he connected me with Glenn Payne, who actually wrote the beer style guidelines for the Brewers Association.
Wow.
Yeah. So he didn't even just tell me places to go. He came and met my daughter and I at the National Portrait Gallery and took us all over the place.
Amazing.
And he told me I had a really good palate and that I should be judging. And because of him, I judge the British Pie Awards every year in Melton Mowbray, England. I'm still the only American who's judged that. That's savory pies, not cherry pies now. But
Right.
we're taking like steak and kidney pie, cold pork pie, fish pie, game pie, which is like venison and wild hare.
Sure.
So good. Things like that as well. So I've been doing that every year since 2014. I was just there in March doing that and went to my first soccer game.
Wow. Football.
Arsenal game.
Little footy.
Any Premier League fans here? And then my first international judging competition was in Portugal.
Wow.
And Portugal has a very newly emerging craft beer market. They're known for their wine.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're known for port. And so I got Nicole Ernie in, who's a master cicerone. Nicole Ernie.
And my favorite proctor. I appreciate her time. I loved her proctoring of the certified cicerone test so much. I had to go back 3 times just to get an opportunity to hang out with her.
I just got that. She is amazing. She's like a little
so
sister to
cool.
me. She's great.
Yeah.
So she is Portuguese by heritage. So we went. So I judged the Polish
That's so cool.
national beer competition. I judged the in Finland. I judged the Italian national beer competition. I was just judging that in April. And I judged the Portuguese national beer competition. I judged the California craft beer competition.
Yeah.
The North Bay beer competition. The recent Sonoma County homebrew competition.
Yeah.
And there have been times I've been the only woman or only one of 2 women there.
I'm sure.
And we really want some more women. So, go out there and go get any kind of certification like you want to get. Like, it's pretty easy. Cicerone, BJCP, Domans, go to Germany and go get one. That'd be fun. You should do that, Wolf, now that you're retired. So I've been doing that for a while. And then once you judge an international beer competition and you get along with folks,
right,
you do a good job.
You're in.
You start getting invited to other ones. So I judged their national beer competition as well in Finland. Finland's like my new favorite country.
Yeah.
They're the most equitable country in the world. They were the first country to let women be up for election.
Respect.
Yeah, they're amazing. If you get a parking ticket or a speeding ticket in Finland, you get fined according to your income. Your car registration is according to your income. So some guy on his way, like in California, you're on a dishwasher's on his way running to work trying to get not to be late. He gets pulled over and it starts this domino effect of fines and things that happens to them.
You're homeless. It's like a $500 ticket.
And their car gets impounded, all this stuff, and you can't get your license. They do not let that happen in Finland. It's also one of the cleanest places I've been. Yeah, it's an amazing country. And they are fun as hell. So, what's that? Oh, parental care. Oh, well, the guys actually get up to they get up to 2 years of parental leave, family leave,
God damn.
paid. Their job is held. The mothers get up to 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if it's 2 dads. Okay.
Right.
2 moms. They get the same equitable treatment. You get
Go Finland.
Yeah, their healthcare is free, their education is free. My friend got her PhD paid for, there in Finland, and I think she said it cost her like $1,200 to get her PhD.
Wow.
Yeah. So is there any wonder the rest of Europe is more educated than we are?
Must be
it's
nice.
going to catch up to us at some point.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, at some point.
But you can do trade schools there as well. You don't have to do like regular college. Like they also value trade schools as well too.
That's awesome. Like brewing.
What's that?
Like brewing, or metalwork, or plumbing.
Or firemen?
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know. Is that a trade?
I think the firefighters would say it's a trade. It's a trade.
We like firemen.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool country. So, but then when you go to the softie competition, it's at a different village every year. So Lachlan's there, where Santa is, and the reindeer.
Right.
They move it around from village to village.
Awesome.
And there's requirements. They have to have saunas, what we call saunas, and a lake or a pool nearby, and they jump in the lake and they're naked and they're in the sauna, and they just run back and forth from sauna to lake with their satés and their beers.
Wow.
And they roast sausages on the fire that's heating up the sauna.
Sure.
Yeah, you got to make sure you don't accidentally poke the wrong thing with the
Yo, Finland. I've got to get over there. And all the beer folks are always like, I got to get to Europe, and I got to go to Cantillon, I got to go to Wyen Stepan. Like, nuts to that. I got to go to Finland.
Finland.
Yeah.
Finland, and also Portugal too. So if you want to taste what is newly emerging, I judge the Italian national beer competition as well. So when you go to Germany, obviously you're getting some of the best beers, and in Belgium as well.
Yeah.
But then to go to a place where they revere California beers and the German beers, and they're trying to make some of those styles, but they're also making some of their own Italian grape ale and Portuguese grape ale, which are actually finally recognized styles as well.
Right.
Yeah, so you're getting to try all these new beers, and they're still figuring out getting their hops and their grains and the economy and things as well. So it's kind of fun to go and do that instead of. Although I have done Oktoberfest, and everybody should do Oktoberfest at least once in their life as well.
Right, you got to do it once. If Michael Jackson hadn't done Oktoberfest, where would we all be?
If Michael Jackson hadn't,
he hadn't done a lot of things.
All the stuff that he's done, Michael Jackson, not the one gloved guy, but the Michael Jackson, the
with two gloves.
Yeah, the two glove guys.
I've heard him explained as the one with the two gloves before.
You can find his shows, The Beer Hunter, on YouTube and different places as well. But he was actually and he has the Beer Almanac and different ones like that.
Huge.
I got that
Often
shirt.
Described as the inventor of styles. His discussion of the way beer is regionally is what led to all the stuff that you judge people on. Literally.
Yeah, judging is actually, thank God they put some guidelines in place, because instead of just going, oh, that's it, I like that. You can't just go by, I like that style.
Right.
You have to we're checking for flaws, not just the good stuff. We're, smelling for diacetyl and mere captain and, oxidation and light struck and things like that as well.
Speaking of those, is there any one that you think you're particularly sensitive to or not particularly sensitive to? Because, I will catch, oxidation. I will catch trans 2-nonenal at 30 yards. And as far as DMS goes, you could have me standing over the boil at our brewery, and I'm like, smells fine. I don't get anything. DMS is just totally missed to me.
I can smell DMS. It smells like cooked corn and kind of
corn, Fritos. I've also recently been learning dog's paws smell like DMS. To a lot of folks in England who don't eat a lot of corn chips, they will compare DMS to a dog's paws.
Interesting.
And
I haven't heard that one yet, but
I've dove deep into this because it really caught me, and I thought it was super weird. You can go on different social media websites and do hashtag Frito paws, and it will bring up people who are like, I love my dog, my puppy always smells like Fritos, and I'm like, your dog smells like DMS. It's a thing. Trust me, it sounds crazy.
I haven't heard yet.
Yeah.
I'm particularly sensitive to diacetyl.
Okay.
Because I love theater popcorn.
Right.
And that's what diacetyl smells like theater butter the fake butter popcorn.
Right.
That's what it smells like to me.
Yeah. That used to be
sometimes
diacetyl.
Butterscotch.
Yeah. Butterscotch too, and it's got a mouthfeel associated with it as well. Yeah. At the level you're judging, are most of the beers really excellent, where it's a hard time kind of picking out a favorite because it's the best saute in all of Finland, or you're like, whoa, these people need to go back and work on their saute?
It's a hard one because when I judge in California, obviously it's actually even harder because we have so many good beers here, and everybody like wants to be like California beers. We're so lucky, you guys.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, even like our worst beer is still a really good beer.
Embarrassment of riches.
Yeah, like everything else we have here, you know. So some of these newly emerging craft beer areas will have a lot of older hops. And you know,
oh, that's a
and they or they haven't been stored properly, or you know, you see the beer behind the building in the sun, you know, like in Portugal sometimes, and you're like, no. But so it just depends. So yeah, Finland and Poland have fantastic beers. So Poland is another great country, and another really fun country too.
Yeah,
those guys can drink. Oh my God! And also vodka, of course.
Sure.
But you look at everything that they've been through too. Soviet
they got a lot of reasons to drink in Poland.
Nazis, everything.
Yeah.
So,
Eastern Bloc.
Yeah. So people will ask me, they'll go, Poland? Is the beer any good in Poland? I'm like, okay, let's look at a map before World War I.
Right.
So before World War I, there really wasn't Germany, you know, quote unquote, or even like really like Poland. There was Prussia, there was Bavaria, there was Franconia, Polonia, and then there was all these different areas as well. But those were all excellent beer, a long history of making beer. Right. So it wasn't until World War I when things got broken up and they renamed the countries, and then also and then in World War II, of course, the Nazis came in. And something that actually happened in World War II that a lot of people don't realize is that they melted down the copper.
A lot of those breweries aren't quite as old as maybe the label says they are.
Yeah, the Nazis went in and melted down the copper for, you know, I guess bullets and things. I don't know, you know, weapons that well, but I know that they melted them. But they would pick which ones that they would keep. This is beautiful. I'm going to keep this for our officers.
Wow.
Yeah, the oldest distillery in Lille, I've been there, and it's all copper stills, and even like their troughs are out of beautiful copper, and that's because the Nazis said they wanted to keep it for their schnapps.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. So it all has to do, like in Krakow, Poland, Krakow only survived because Hitler said, this is going to be my headquarters, it's so beautiful. And then they demolished Warsaw and everywhere else, or to punish them, you know, as well too. So, but Poland has some of my favorite beers, like Baltic Porter.
Yeah, that's a great style, and it's one that does not pop up very often. No. Not a lot of people are buying Baltic Porters. What about that beer do you really like? Like the more restrained roastiness, ABV?
So I helped Lithuania with their first craft beer festival several years ago, and I got Lagunitas there before they were international, before they were Heineken. I got Moonlight Brewing here out of Sonoma County there.
Dude, you are the woman. Like, you are making the beer world go round. Literally.
It's nuts sometimes. I don't even know how this happens.
Your passport must be haggard.
I had to get another one.
I love it.
I had to get another one because it was good. So I co-hosted the first Chinese Brewers Association Awards. I was the English co-host.
Amazing.
With Michelle Wang, and she started the first craft beer magazine in China. And it's a woman starting this magazine, so was a big deal as well. Yeah, so I was the English co-host for that in Shanghai.
Awesome.
So that if you get a visa, just go ahead and get like the biggest passport you can, because the visa takes up like 3 pages.
Right.
And then you also get second looks every time you go through TSA. Right. They're like, oh, all right.
They're wow.
At least I don't have a Russian one on there.
Yeah. You're like, I love beer. I travel. So, you know, kind of speaking of the craft beer is really all over the place now. Like the styles we love, like you can go.
What's this?
This is going to be some.
The Rogue.
Yeah, that's some Rogue. Like this is modern Rogue. This is really old Rogue. This is Rogue today. This is their double chocolate. They're leaning into the chocolate on this one. And then I've got some really old Sierra Imperial Stout from 2015.
Narwhal.
If you want to check out that Narwhal. So you can see it everywhere, and you've seen it. You've been watching it rise and transform here in the States, and you know now This was something I heard on Monday that really like got me right in the solar plexus, is seeing how many people from that, like, I'm a brewer, Brewers Association thing in 2013, I think that video came out. Like, so many of those breweries that were so focused on independence are no longer independent. And also so many of the never say die, death before I take that check, our friend Tony McGee. There's a gentleman from San Diego who made some statements along those same lines until they got that check. Bells. The folks at New Belgium executed an ESOP, which is the dream.
And then they sold it.
And then all the employees sold. And you're like, you know, it's a meme where you're like, you guys should have, I really want, as a beer consumer, I want you guys to have total control of your own company. I want you guys to be self-determined. And they're like, yes. And our choice is to sell to a large multinational conglomerate. And I was like, wait, not like that. And yeah, it's amazing how that is changing in the U.S. while simultaneously, literally hundreds of exciting new local independent breweries are opening up, and it's happening all over the world. What's your thought? If someone says, oh, I don't follow that beer thing, Herlinda, you've been really into it. What's it all about? What's been going on?
So Constellation, when they bought Ballast Point, you know, Sculpin Brewery was like the big one when that happened, and that was, you know, $1 billion. $1 billion for one brewery, and it was good beer. But you know, he you know, so Constellation is a big wine, you know, thing, and so of course the wine industry was like, I want to get in on that.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, in some ways, like, it's the same thing with people selling their houses and their family farms right now. When if you could be real estate, you know, rich and cash poor. So, I mean, I can kind of get it, but why people do it, and I do. Lagunitas, when they sold half to Heineken. Well, we never thought that would happen.
Never thought that would happen.
But then when they sold the whole thing, a lot of friends of mine became pretty wealthy.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for them.
Right.
And some of those people went and started other breweries, have invested in other breweries. You're going to hear about one pretty soon that I can't talk about yet.
Ooh.
But I might tell you after.
Yeah.
Off there.
If I put enough Imperial Stout in you, like, all the secrets come out, I'm sure.
You get secrets out of me. But like Ron Lindenbush, when he bought Hopland Tap, that used to be the Mendocino Brewing Company building, and he basically saved that building. He saved that legacy in history. Ron Lindenbush, that was like, you know, he was like Tony McGee's right-hand man. Yeah. And having, you know, there's so things like that. Like, so there's good and bad.
There's good and bad.
Yeah.
And you can't just stay out of hand. And I'm someone who would kind of like to. I'd like to be like, it's only the Davids and it's only the Goliaths, and there's no gray area in between there. But then you see, I'm like, Lagunitas sold. Oh no. Wait, Ron Lindenbush is loaded now. That's great. But now Lagunitas is like doing some things that I'm like a little less stoked on. Oh, that sucks. But Ron Lindenbush is saving this important piece of craft beer history, which he couldn't do without all that. Like, okay, wow. I guess I really don't know how to feel. Life is nuanced.
And Lagunitas is the number one IPA in the world now, and I see it everywhere. And that kind of distribution is what they were looking at with Heineken. So if somebody's handing you $1 billion, what do you do, right? How do you say no?
As my boss Colin McDonald says,
and it doesn't mean you're done with beer.
Right.
It means you get maybe you get the chance to, you know, go ahead and start your own brewery. Maybe that was your dream. Right. You know, to start your own, you know, like some of the people that are vested in another brewery. Okay, so here's an example. Patrick Brew.
Right.
That just bought Heineken / Lagunitas out of their half of Moonlight Brewery.
Right.
He owned the brewery,
yes.
Brewery.
Yeah.
in like the San Diego area.
Yeah.
And he started a winery in Napa.
Yeah.
And he has a little tiny brewery there.
And
he took that money and he bought what Brian Hunt wanted back. He wanted half his brewery back.
We're also, like we at HenHouse, lots of folks, we're very, I would say, suspicious of the private equity money coming into beer, which is where Patrick Brew found his partners. But then you see a really great situation like that come out of it, and you're like, well, okay, what's really teaching me is just
it goes
all
full
I know
circle.
is that I don't know nothing. Yeah.
And of course, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Sapporo out of Japan.
Yes.
Just bought Stone Brewing. And a brewing company that just broke yesterday morning. They sent me an email like I was going to bed. It was like 11 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And they sent me a press release, and then they sent me a private message, and they were like, "This is happening."
Right.
And so I do see on my friends' Facebook pages that work there, shock.
Yeah.
They're in shock. I don't know. Right now, we don't know what forward that's going to do.
Yeah.
But it's when people are invested, like Lagunitas,
right.
or the employee-owned SEOP, like New Belgium was.
Yeah.
When you do a plan, when you have a succession plan for your brewery, and that's really important. Pete Salzberg, who started Pete's Wicked Ales, is a good friend of mine, and I taught the craft beer program for Sonoma State, the craft beer appreciation program.
Right.
And Pete comes in and he talks about marketing. He also talks about when he got bought.
Yeah.
And how they basically screwed him over. And so he talks about how to succession plan in place. Have things in place for the future, for your future as well. If you have employees or you have family that are staying on at the brewery after you've sold it, make sure you put that in a plan to protect them in place before you take that money and sign on the dotted line and take that check.
Yeah.
Because if that's part of your legacy and you want your family protected, and then if you don't want anything to do with it later, then fine, just don't. But you got to look at it. You got to have a succession plan in place.
It's a really big deal. As I've slid on to enjoy a little bit of pre-Anheuser-Busch Bourbon County Stout from Goose Island.
Goose Island. Yeah. If you want to know about like the Anheuser-Busch Goose Island,
it's really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Josh Nolan? Was it Josh Noel?
Yes.
He wrote the book Bourbon Stout and Selling Out. And that's all about when Anheuser-Busch bought Goose Island.
Great book.
Yeah. And that, if you want to know a little bit more about beer history, that A Woman's Place is in the Brew House that my friend Tara Nairn wrote, and that's the first global history of women in beer from Mesopotamia on to
the
now.
Bay Area.
Yeah. And so the first craft beer tap room in America was just in Sonoma, over near Pleasanton, and that was Judy Ashworth.
Yeah.
The Lions
Brewery Depot.
Lions
Tap
Depot.
Room? Yeah.
Lions Tap Room and Depot.
Such an amazing, thing in history. I try and think about this stuff where
it was in the 80s.
I was very lucky when I was initially first coming up in beer. I got exposed to so many amazing women that I didn't get a chance to fall into the whole this is for dudes, only bros do this and ladies do some other thing. When I was first coming up, I met some fabulous women homebrewers. I was living in Chico where the woman whose name I don't know who bought Ken Grossman's homebrew store way back in the day, she's back then at least was still queen of the scene, and everybody, all the homebrewing dudes I knew were dying to get their beer in front of her and dying to know what she thought about her beer. So I was like, oh, this beer thing that I'm learning about, people are like, yes, here's a bunch of really important local women. I was like, good to know. Everyone's really important in all this. But I can't imagine the level of pushback she must have experienced, in the 80s. Wow. Where, I joke about saying, I just learned, Belgians were making beer when I got hired at a Belgian beer establishment, and didn't know that was a thing before it. I broadly assumed that people were making beer in other countries, but didn't know anything about it, didn't know anything about the history. And the work she did at a time when no one knew anything.
So Judy Ashworth started like I said, she started the first craft brewery, solely craft brewery tap room in America back in the 80s. She had a kick out the bud party. And
so cool.
she did a party to like empty the Coors Light, the Coors, the Budweiser kegs, and she was only doing craft beer from then on.
Yeah.
The guys from Budweiser and Miller and all that, they showed up and they said, "We're worried about you. We're worried you're going to fail without us.
Right.
If you don't have Budweiser, you're a single mom. How are you going to survive?"
Yeah.
And she said, "I will figure it out." And she was polite with them and everything, but she kicked them out, and and then her tap room burned down right before Christmas. Yeah, her tap room burned down right before Christmas. And Mark Carpenter, my co-host on Brew Ha Ha from Anchor, and Bob Brewer, who was the national sales guy for Anchor.
I've met Bob. Great guy.
Yeah, he's in Petaluma. Mark Carpenter's in Petaluma. We have so many amazing people. They showed up with cases of beer on their shoulders to come help her get her, like, just to survive.
Amazing.
Yeah. So Revision,
Yeah.
Revision out of Nevada, one of the best new breweries in the world. Oh my
Absolutely.
God, so good. They just did a birthday beer for her 81st birthday.
Yeah.
Was that?
Reno as fuck. That's Division's, not Division, Revision's most exported to the Bay Area beer. It's a great beer, too.
That and Disco Ninja.
Yeah, Disco Ninja's really good.
Disco Ninja's a big one as well.
Yeah.
Really super popular.
I love that Revision did a beer for her. Like, we need to do
they made a label with her picture on it.
Everybody needs to make a beer for her. I've had all the Ken Fritz and Jack beers. Where's like the Judy and Susie beer? Like, that's what we need.
I would love that. So when Tara was writing that book, I actually went and met her in Sweden.
Yeah.
I introduced her to Sati Kaisa in Finland. She went over to Finland and met her, and then we went and met in Sweden. So the first scholarship winner for the Pink Boot Society was Jessica Heydrich, and she was with St. Erik's Brewery in Sweden, in the Stockholm area, and she was the first. She got the scholarship for going to brewing school for that. Now she has her own brewery, Hopscotch.
Amazing.
Yeah. So Tara and I introduced her to her, and brought her over to Judy Ashworth's house, and I
love that.
It was so much fun.
Yeah. Cheers.
Thanks. Cheers. I am going to do a shout out right now, though, to the Freshtival, because we're sitting inside in air conditioning, looking through the windows, and it is a kick-ass festival. What a great turnout. There's food, there's bands, there's so many great breweries, and no beer is older than 7 days old, although except for the ones on our table right here.
This many breweries, this many individual brands, and nothing older than 7 days.
That's quite a feat to pull off.
It really is, and frankly, not to whine too much on the mic, we did reach out to Guinness and say, not the brewery, but the record keepers at Guinness, and we said, hey, we got the most different, freshest beer that's ever been in one building at one time. And they're like, it's not really a thing. Click. And I was like, well, okay.
But it should be a thing.
It totally should be a thing. Like, this is at least as interesting as like the largest pot of spaghetti, if you ask me. I'm a beer guy, so I really appreciate what everybody's done. The number of folks who have made a special beer just for today, or even made a little nudge to their brewing schedule to make today work out, we're so appreciative for. This is such a great thing to give to the folks of the North Bay, to give to the Bay Area Brewers Guild, and to let us
from all
be
over
a part
here.
of it. It's really cool. We got out-of-state folks. We've got a lot of folks that are not in the Bay Area Brewers Guild because they are not in
Portland
the Bay Area.
And stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we're really lucky. So this is a great festival. Put it on your calendar for next year.
Right.
Volunteer.
Yeah, volunteer.
Volunteer is
getting for
always a
free,
great thing.
Be part of the action.
Yeah. I love a fresh beer, but I'm also loving this older beer that's in my glass.
There's some older beer. I
Is
think
this
I
the
poured you
Narwhal?
some old Rasputin. Yeah, that's some Narwhal. I think I just poured you some old Rasputin. This is some fresh old Rasputin, which is one of the very best imperial stouts in the whole
North Coast
dang
Brewing
world.
Company up in Fort Bragg area.
Yeah, I'm never sure how to pronounce his last name. I'm going to say Rudrick. Mark Rudrick is the guy who inserted himself in the prankster label there. Yeah.
You know, I don't know him. You know who I know that who was kind of like the face of North Coast for a long time was Josh Charlton.
Not familiar with
Yeah,
him.
he
but-
is actually one of Judy Ashworth's best friends.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's a kick in the pants too.
North Coast makes such great stuff out of Fort Bragg.
Right.
And then, speaking of incredible pioneering women,
Lost Coast.
Um,
Lost Coast.
Hold this thought real quick. I think I have some Lost Coast
Okay, so
stouts
a
I
lot
wanna
of people
pour.
don't even know that Lost Coast Brewery, you know, Great White, the Tangerine Ale, and those beers, those are it's a woman-owned brewery and woman brewer as well. There was two, but she bought her partner out of that as well. And Mad River Brewing up in the Eureka area on the Eel River. So that is owned by the Yurok tribe, the Native American tribe, and it's 100% owned by the Yurok tribe. The CEO is a Yurok Native American woman, and they are now at the Giants games. Yeah, so I was there last Monday for Native American night, and Will Clark actually came into our suite looking to say hi to the tribe and to say hi to her, and took a bunch of pictures with us. It was really cool.
That
so
is
if you go to the
amazing.
Giants game, support, because of the reservation, and they said the reservation is still pretty poor for the most part. Like, a lot of people are still really poor, and having this brewery, instead of they're thinking out of the box, and everything that Mad River
Right.
does is to protect the salmon and the water and the trees and the environment. It is a great brewery, and they also do a great hard seltzer as well. Okay, what do you got there?
I actually purchased, but have mislaid, Lost Coast's brand new Imperial Stout. Here is another old historical Imperial Stout, Fritz and Ken's Imperial
Oh my
Stout.
God, I haven't even seen this
From
in
Sierra. Oh.
forever.
Well, yeah, it's been about 12 years. Let's
Holy
see.
moly.
Let's see how it held up as we're talking about history. But yeah, to imagine what Barbara Groom and her partner were doing at a time when, penis havers couldn't get loans to start breweries because that was a crazy idea that no one wanted to finance. I couldn't imagine what it would be like for two women trying to start something like that in Eureka, of all places. Ooh.
Speaking of women in beer, so Ken Grossman at Sierra Nevada Brewing Company, his son and his daughter Sierra.
Yeah.
His daughter Sierra is doing a lot of the operations and stuff for
Yeah.
Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. She's great.
And I love the way they've leaned into that with their current slogan, family owned, operated, and argued over. It's great. Sierra has done so much for craft beer, and there have been so many fabulous women. When I was first coming up in beer in Chico, I was up there for 7 years and would not be on this stage without my time in Chico, learning about beer, getting really excited about craft
What'd you
beer.
major in?
Spanish.
I was pre-med.
Oh, wow. Have you ever noticed how many people become lawyers and then bail on that to become
Brewers?
involved in the brewing scene?
So I on the show, we always ask what people did before they were brewing, a little bit of their beer history. We get a lot of former lawyers, or maybe they're still existing lawyers that have become brewers or brewery owners.
Yeah.
Marine biologists like
Yeah.
Reagan Long from Local Brewing Company.
Local Brewing,
Yeah,
yes.
she's like a PhD marine biologist specializing in something like that. And then the guys from Old Kaz, which is also one of my new favorites
Yes.
here here in
Local
Runner
friends,
Park.
they're here today.
Yeah, those guys were both in pre-law.
Wow.
Yeah, and then he ended up becoming an underwater welder
I met the guy
for
who,
the oil, and then an underwater
Did the welding.
gold miner in Alaska, and then they both started a brewery.
That's pretty wild.
Go figure.
Yeah,
so
and
if you're
then-
wanting to start a brewery, there is nothing that says that you have to have gone to school for that.
No, and then it's great to start a brewery knowing how to weld.
Yes.
That's huge.
Mark Carpenter knows how to weld. Because when he was started at Anchor in 1971, when Fritz Maytag hired him, he actually, it wasn't easy to have equipment back then. So he was like welding things.
There was no one to call. No one made that stuff. No one worked on that stuff. You were just figuring out as it went. I remember the gentleman who Mark Gilge, who owns Craftsman Brewing.
Oh, Craftsman.
He wanted to open a brewery. So first, he went to school to learn how to weld. Ken Grossman wanted to open a brewery. I think he already knew how to weld, but he had to learn about refrigeration from Butte College, the community college up in Chico. That's how it was back then, which is, I literally can't imagine that. Doing my job, but then also having to cobble together all the equipment I do my job with. It just sounds daunting. And then at a time when people are like, beer? What are you doing that for? Budweiser already does it. Stop.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, these other countries that I judge in, in Portugal and Italy and stuff. So the guys, a lot of the Italian brewers will have gotten, wine equipment and adjusted it, changed it up a little bit, welded, did things to change it into, because God knows there's plenty of wine equipment to be had in Italy and in Portugal as well.
Yeah.
So, they're figuring it out.
I can't wait to drink a ton of port barrel aged beers coming out of Portugal, because I love port. I love barrel aging. I love port barrel aging, and coming out of Portugal, I bet that's really, really good.
Yeah. So there's the Portuguese grape ale, and in Italy, like I was saying before, is the Italian grape ale, and they'll do that in either age it in some wine barrels, or they actually aren't putting wine. And if you see a grape ale, it doesn't mean it has actually wine in it, because you can't do that legally. It actually has either fresh grape or must, like Soundscape Brewing, whose booth you should totally check out. Oh,
yeah. I haven't had a chance to make it over there, but
Ashley Harrell,
I love what she does.
Be on the lookout for Soundscape Brewing, because her beers are some of the best beers I've ever had.
That
anywhere.
Is awesome.
Anywhere. Her beers are absolutely incredible, and she actually has her barrels. She puts different music, whether it's rock or Italian or opera, pointing at the barrels, and had like ABBA. She has them with ABBA for the beers. How are we doing on time there?
Oh, dude, we're doing great. We're gonna crack one last one. I'm gonna say Fritz and Ken's didn't hold up great. It's doing okay. at 12 years, I don't know.
Did Fritz did this one with Ken?
Yeah, this is.
Oh wow.
This is their tribute to.
So back when Ken Grossman started Sierra Nevada Brewery, and he actually, a lot of the smaller breweries would actually pull up their trucks to Anchor Brewing in San Francisco,
absolutely,
to get malt and things, so that, because it was actually cheaper for them to get it from them after they've already done a big shipment, and they would pull up their truck and get barley and malt, to make the beer from.
That's also one of the things. If craft beer had started out with a lot of resources and companies and professionalism, I think we would have lost this really deep collaboration that we have now, because when this industry was starting, there literally was nothing else. So if you had a brewing problem, you had to call one of the 10 or 20 other breweries that brewed on your scale and learn from those folks. And then celebrate those folks and appreciate them.
Yeah.
And that really is one of the greatest values that is still being transmitted, like we're doing right now. Every brewery here is stoked on every other brewery here. Tons of us have collabed. I'm looking at a bunch of great tents. I work for HenHouse, but we've made beers with Ghost Town and Fog Belt. We just sent beer out to East Brothers Beer Festival. They're at our beer festival. We brewed a collab with Beer Republic.
Yep.
We've sold beers for Tarantula Hill. And we were just celebrating Revision. And most other industries aren't that.
They don't collaborate the same way.
They don't collaborate.
Cloudwater Brewing Company, that's the number one brewery in England. They were just here, Paul Jones.
Absolutely.
And he's done a collaboration with HenHouse as well.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with beer. You will have a friend anywhere in the world. If you have anything to do with beer, Like, I've had people stay at my house that were, well, this is, my production manager's coming to Santa Rosa, and I'm like, they can stay with me. And I've stayed with people in Sweden who I've never met before, but they were part of the Pink Booth Society. It all works that way, and then they end up doing. But when we did the Rate Beer Festival, so that actually is something I'm really super proud of.
Yeah.
That I was in charge of the international brewers, just making their rooms and making sure they were happy and stuff.
That's amazing.
The Rate Beer Festival, which was a festival that we had here in Santa Rosa for the top 100 breweries and beers in the world.
Right.
And they all came from all over the world here to Sonoma County and went off on our beers. Loved our, beers and our nature and our redwoods, everything here. And they all still are friends and doing stuff with each other.
Right.
Back and forth all over the world.
It's
cool.
Beer is just touching. I just poured us a little bit of the Beer 2000, our brand new Imperial Stout. This is Liquid History Lesson 1.
Cheers.
Our beautiful hen on the can.
That is beautiful.
It's
Look
really
at
nice.
that.
Great head retention, boys. You done did it. And gals. We've got our hen in front of a colorful iMac with a chalkboard that is talking about Y2K and Napster and different things. And this is a time when big Imperial Stouts were the only way to celebrate your brewery's anniversary or a special collab, and then a ton of barrel aging, spirit barrel aging, all of these great pastry ingredients that we're enjoying right now. None of that stuff was even really thought of back then. This is our 2000th batch, so it's a very contemporary beer, but we are looking back with it. And
That's really good.
it has been an incredible experience to get some liquid history from someone who has done so much for craft beer, so much for Tara Nurin, who wrote that great book. You read that book and you're like, this never could have come together without Herlinda.
I don't know about
rad.
that, but she's got a master's in journalism, but I am a great connector. And I really do love the people in beer and the history around it. And it's so old.
Yeah.
It's so old. You can see things from Mesopotamia. The first brewers in the world were women.
Absolutely.
And I want people to know about that. And I will help
Hugely
anybody
important.
who wants to get that out there.
Yes.
Besides that, Tara's my beer bestie.
Yeah.
But, it's not all about the bros.
It's always been about the ladies. Women make beer, and without women, there would never have been a beer industry for, frankly, dudes to dude up with their fucking dudeness, which nobody really needs or has ever need. But without all the brewing women who are working hard right now for all of these fabulous breweries, leading breweries, leading the industry, writing great books, reminding everybody that you need to know that this whole thing was created by ladies? Sure. Let's take some questions.
How is the brewing industry reacting to the recent
How have breweries reacted to the recent Supreme Court decision? And I would say...
I'm glad you said that, because it's the first thing I said.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I said yesterday. So the question is, how are the breweries reacting to the Supreme Court decision? And I actually was just on the show yesterday.
Yeah.
Pissed off. I was pissed off. I don't walk into the show going, I need a drink, give me a beer right now. I was so mad that we were doing a special Freshtival, with Fridge, and Fridge gave me a big hug, and he said, I was raised by women. I have a lot of women in my life really upset right now. And he was like, I am so sorry. And
that's our Fridge.
That right there shows you a little bit, just in a quick nutshell, what the brewing industry is like. And they are really supportive of women. I know there's been a lot of stuff with the Me Too and all that, but ultimately...
Also great.
They really do support us. They really do support women. They support their sisters. They support their brothers. They support the people, the women they work with. And I'm hoping that there's going to be, and I know there will be, a lot of, you're going to start seeing labels that are going to be about...
The collab cans are coming.
Yeah, and fundraising for, this
and the
Roe v.
Molotov
Wade
bottles
Supreme
after that.
Court decision. And I love history, but I don't want to go back in time. We should not go back in time.
We should not go back in time. Absolutely.
It's bullshit.
It's bullshit.
It's bullshit. Hands off my beer and hands off my body.
Woo! Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Thank you again so much for your time, Herlinda. This has been
Cheers.
Straight up, all the swears. This has been a motherfucking honor. Thank you.
You're a kick in the pants. I can't wait to talk to you again and share some beers.
Oh yeah, we'll be doing this. Cheers.
HenHouse Unruffled was created by Anna Scott. We record at HenHouse Brewing Company's Palace of Barrels in Petaluma, California. Our producer is Brian Henderson, and our associate producers are Josh Staples and Fridge. The music you've been listening to was written and performed by our San Francisco account rep McLean from his album Speechless and Speechless 2, which you can find on Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal, and anywhere one finds dope music. If you have a question or comment about this or any episode of HenHouse Unruffled, please let us know by calling 707-347-9425 to leave a message. You can also send an email to podcast@henhousebrewing.com. For more information, visit www.henhousebrewing.com or stop by one of our Bay Area tasting rooms. The voice you've been listening to is Imani Russell Black. Please listen and drink responsibly.